You want me to waste company money schmoozing the wrong guys? Okay. A number of years ago, I worked for a recruiting company that serviced a major automotive plant in the U.S. This was the first of its kind built in the U.S. and had just recently opened. Now, typically for my company, the business manager, owner, administrator would give us hiring orders for new employees. Usually, it's someone in charge who decides to hire new people. With this company, the administration handed the hiring decision to the new hire trainers. Then those trainers would give us the order. I love these trainers. They were deeply religious, family-orientated guys. Both of them adopted children from rough homes while I knew them. Both were extremely kind and welcoming to my new hires I was sending in, which can be rare in an automotive plant. They'd go on missions with their church to help in struggling areas. While I am not religious at all myself, I loved how passionate these guys were and how it reflected in working alongside them. The plant lowered production and our orders for new hires slowed. My managers started getting on my ass. Hey, go ask Bill and Ted if there is any new hires they need. Take them to dinner and see if you can talk them in more employees. I explained repeatedly to my boss that Bill and Ted do not make hiring decisions. Those decisions come way over their head, and they just relay. I was told I am new to this business and don't understand how networking works. Finally, my boss's boss got on my ass when he was in the region for a meeting. I needed to push these guys to make new orders. So I checked my limits for how much I could spend schmoozing clients. And then I took these guys all around town for months. I knew steakhouse open you guys want to try. Bring your wives and let's go. Do you guys want to hit the billiards club for lunch? The whole ticket is on me. I just want breakfast burritos and coffee delivered. Send your orders in and I'll bring it on my way. At some point, I figured there would be some backlash over the money I was spending. I even found the max I was allowed to tip and was maxing it out every time to give out more money to the waitresses. I was wrong. The plant cycled up again, and I think my managers believed those new orders came from the money I was spending, and not just typical ebbs and flows of auto manufacturing. Eventually, I left the industry and these guys moved on to other jobs. We had a blast on the company dime while it lasted.
You can eat at the hotel. Long time ago in the late 90s, when I was a young IT consultant, I was sent out of state on an assignment. The sales manager decided to make all of the travel arrangements for me and my coworker. We were to stay at a Holiday Inn type hotel he booked for us. When I asked about daily expenses and a rental car, the sales manager told me that the hotel had a shuttle that would take us to the work site and we could eat at the hotel restaurant. I tried to argue with him that I'd like to see the town or eat somewhere other than the hotel, but he wouldn't budge. He paid for the flights and the rooms, and we could charge our meals to our room. Anything else would be paid for out of our own pockets. I was young and broke, so I didn't have much of a choice. I settled into the expectation that I would have a boring week of hotel for 5 days. When my coworker and I arrived at the hotel, we were quite surprised to find that it wasn't at all a Holiday Inn type hotel, in spite of the fact that it had inn in the name. It was quite fancy, and the rooms were comfortable and spacious. The hotel restaurant, though, was something my lower middle-class self had never experienced. This was a restaurant that didn't print prices on the menu. In fact, I couldn't even pronounce half of the items listed. Meals were a set cost regardless of what you ordered. Breakfast was $40 per person. Lunches and dinners were $60 per person. Knowing we had no car and no way to expense anything that wasn't charged to the room, my coworker and I dutifully ate 3 meals a day in the hotel restaurant. I had 5 days of filet mignon for breakfast and various gourmet lunches and dinners, while the hotel shuttle took us to and from the workplace all week. Now, years later, I'm not even sure I remember the city I was in or the work I was doing, but I remember a week of filet mignon for breakfast, and the look in the eyes of the sales manager when he saw his credit card statement. That was a great trip.
Ex's divorce lawyer send 3 years of complete financials or else be as you wish. TLDR at the end. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I've never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment, as divorce custody battles often come down to. I couldn't even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer wasn't a total ass, but he clearly was out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day, I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declarations form and 3 years of financials. It had a longest list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that, and I said this was taking time away from business I needed to handle, to which he replied, and I'll never forget this: "Well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day?" He then said if he didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and IRS. Probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. A fax is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown, so I asked him if he has a fax machine. He said he had a fax scanner copier device, then said what law office doesn't have a fax machine, and I suddenly got an idea. "Okay," I said to him, "I'll put together and fax whatever I can." "Hey, motherfucker, you want 3 years of financials? You got it." I scanned a PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipt from 5 years ago. Fuck it, won't hurt to include it. CVS receipt. It's 3 miles long. Perfect. They get the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly, quarterly, annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, P&Ls. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page black background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pages in all caps in the biggest, boldest font that would fit on the page in landscape. 2000s receipts, 2000s taxes, etc. I merged everything into a single 150-plus page compressed PDF and sent the document using my eFax system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. That's weird. Well, they're getting this document. So I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird, I was still getting status email failures. I'll delete the failure emails and keep the success one after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax scanner printer copier had been printing non-stop. It kept getting paper jams, kept running out of ink, and they had to keep shutting it off and back on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want a call from the DA or the IRS, I would keep sending until I get a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the documents, and I told a little white lie that my email wouldn't allow an attachment that big, unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or agreed to reimburse me for my cost to print and ship. I said I would continue to fax until they confirm they have received every page. She put me on hold, and the attorney gets on the line. He said forget sending the financials. I said that I would need this in writing, so I will keep sending the fax until he sent it to me. He asked me to stop faxing, and he would send it in writing, and I said send it in writing first and then I'll stop. Long moment of silence. Click. About 20 minutes later, I received an email from his assistant with an attached, signed letter in PDF that I no longer needed to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. Every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials again. TLDR, X accuses me of hiding income and money laundering. Their divorce lawyer demands 3 years of financials. I spam fax them with my company's eFax service. Edit, all these awards in the Reddit front page. Y'all are too kind. Thank you.
Check out my other tremendous videos.